What's up everyone, OJ here, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over this big Capcom rumor list of stuff that we've kind of seen before a little bit and some new things entered into the fray. I want to first and foremost say this is a rumor, so of course treat it that way, take it with a grain of salt. Some of this stuff does seem like it could happen, some of this other stuff seems like it's going to be crazy, but Capcom is kind of crazy, so you never know what's going to happen. So let's go ahead and look at this list here. So starting off, Mega Man X9 in development, going to be revealed by the end of this year and will be released early 2020 for every platform. Mobile game will hint at the new game, so interesting to see there. There was some rumors, or at least Capcom, not even rumors, but Capcom talking about them wanting to do another Mega Man X game, especially if Mega Man 11 did well. Last time I checked, Mega Man 11 did do well, so it does seem like that could be plausible at some point. Devil May Cry 3 is coming to the Nintendo Switch. No idea about Devil May Cry 2. This once again seems very likely that they would bring over one of the best Devil May Cry games to the Nintendo Switch. Devil May Cry 1 already came out on the Nintendo Switch for the $20 digital, and Devil May Cry 2, I just think that they don't want to sell that to people anymore. That game should be banished from the face of existence, so that does seem likely that Devil May Cry 3 will probably come over, and 2 will probably just never come over. Next up on this big rumor list is Viewtiful Joe 1 and 2 getting remastered with Viewtiful Joe 3 in development, and this is probably the biggest stretch out of all of them, only because of how Capcom has treated Viewtiful Joe in recent history. All of the other games on this list have stuff that was recently released, whether it was Mega Man or Monster Hunter or other stuff that we're going to talk about, Resident Evil. All this stuff was pretty recent with one other exception that we'll talk about at the very end here, but for the most part this has pretty much been ignored when it comes to Viewtiful Joe. He's been like, what, in some like fighting games or something like that, but there's really been nothing that they've done for Viewtiful Joe in such a long time. So to sit here and see that they're going to say Viewtiful Joe 1 and 2 are coming over remastered, and then on top of that Viewtiful Joe 3 is in development, that would be absolutely nuts for Capcom, and I'm not so sure about that. But they are portcom at times, so Viewtiful Joe 1 and 2, yeah, seems like that they could do something like that. Now, next up is Devil May Cry 5 can get a new expansion and a Gamescom announcement. That seems very likely as well. It's still a rumor, but that seems likely because Devil May Cry 5 did absolutely incredible on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. So yeah, expand it, get more people to buy stuff. They already have microtransactions built into the game, so why not do some expansion with some DLC as well? So that would definitely make sense if they were able to do something like that, or if that did end up happening. Next up on the list here is Resident Evil 3 Remake, and is considered to be teased at TGS or the Game Awards summer 2020. Revamped mercenaries mode, bigger Raccoon City, and Carlos Oliveira's background expanded. This is another thing that I think could happen just because of the success of Resident Evil 2 Remake. You look at that game and how well that game did, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and you look at the RE engine and what they've done, all the assets and everything are already built. All they got to do is just create a different game, and why not? Why not take advantage of the people who love the classic Resident Evil and be able to build upon the engine you already have, the assets that you do have, and just make a different game? So they've already kind of teased that a little bit, and I think the success of Resident Evil Remake 2 is definitely going to lead to something like this. So yeah, I see Resident Evil 3 happening, but once again, rumor. This is all rumors. I want to make sure that I put a disclaimer in the middle of this. Take it with a grain of salt. Some of the stuff we've heard before, some of this stuff is kind of new, but let's get into this next one here because I've talked about this before, and this is not a new rumor, and I definitely think this is going to happen, but once again, rumor. But Monster Hunter S is the title for the new Monster Hunter game exclusive for the Nintendo Switch. They want to create a hybrid portable and home console experience with this game. This is something that Capcom has actually already stated when I think an investor talked about Monster Hunter for the Nintendo Switch, like, are they going to do anything new? And they said that, yeah, they want to continue making Monster Hunter games on the Nintendo Switch and maybe it be its own thing. So I definitely think there's going to be an exclusive Monster Hunter game on the platform. You have more of the casual or expanded audience experience with Monster Hunter World. That is Capcom's biggest selling game of all time. You have a huge install base. It makes sense for there, but for the Nintendo Switch, people are more used to that Monster Hunter Generations, the old school Monster Hunter 4, where you have a high monster count and there's different elements to the game that were more for the core hunters out there that have been playing for a long time. So maybe you make a game that's dedicated for that, to where people can play it on the go and also at home. So it's more of a connected big experience for those type of players who like that style of Monster Hunter. So once again, I think that that could definitely be happening. Nintendo fans haven't really got a new Monster Hunter game in a very long time. There's been a lot of ports and remakes and re-releases, even when you date it back to the Nintendo 3DS. So I think this would be really cool if this was to happen. Next up on this list is Onimusha games are being remastered, or more games are being remastered and ported, and that would make sense. They brought over the first one, it seems like it did well enough, maybe for what Capcom was looking for, and why not bring over the other ones now that you have some momentum with the first game being released? So it would make sense if they brought over more of them, but once again, rumor. Next up is Resident Evil 8 and Dino Crisis, and that was the game that I was talking about when it comes to Capcom pretty much ignoring, for the most part. It was Dino Crisis. So Resident Evil 8 and Dino Crisis Remake are in development for next-gen systems. One is aimed to be a launch title for consoles, so that would be interesting. Which one would be the launch title for consoles? This one seems like it's going to be inevitable for one of them. When it comes to Resident Evil, we already kind of know that Capcom's always making new Resident Evil games. They're always working on the next Resident Evil. They're always thinking of ideas for what they're going to do with Resident Evil. So it makes sense that Resident Evil 8 is in development, or at least they're talking about it and what they're going to do for the game, especially since Resident Evil 7 came out, I think, 2017? So now it's been 2 years plus. So yeah, that seems about time for them to start talking about the next Resident Evil game. If anything, I would think that Dino Crisis, if this rumor was turned out to be true, I would think that Dino Crisis would be the game that would be the launch title, because I think it'd be a little bit too early for Resident Evil 8. That's just all what I think compared to Resident Evil 7. I know they have the RE engine and they can build a new Resident Evil game, but if you look at Resident Evil 3 as well, if that turns out to be something, the remake, I'm just not sure where they put all of this. So I would guess it'd be Dino Crisis, then Resident Evil 8 comes later, and yeah, I'd probably say it's going to be for next generation systems, because this generation is pretty much done, right? You look at everything that's been going on, there hasn't really been a ton of awesome and new games like it was packed throughout the year. There's been some great stuff, but you can clearly tell that people are moving on. You have some developers or publishers already starting to talk to their investors about next gen. You have developers like Take-Two saying that it's going to be lifelike or live action when it comes to their games, and looking at something like Red Dead Redemption and looking at how good the graphics are in that game, yeah, they're probably going to break the bank when it comes to making the next Red Dead or the next GTA game for next generation systems. So there's a lot of developers that are already kind of moving on and just doing DLC and other stuff like that for current gen. So I can see Resident Evil 8 maybe being a little bit later and all that, and big companies like Capcom already moving on and doing stuff like that. So that makes sense. But overall, out of all these rumors, I want to make sure that I just state this again if you just missed it. Remember, it is a rumor. Take this with a grain of salt. This is not something that is fact. This is not oh, I'm confirming this. This is nothing of that at all, guys, okay? We're just simply discussing it and just talk about just for the pure fact that it's just kind of out there, that people are putting it out. But I don't trust the source material when it comes to, I think it looks like 4chan. It wasn't linked when it comes to the Twitter post that I saw it on, and also DirectFeed Games also quoted it and stuff like that, because there was some rumors that have already been stated, like the Monster Hunter one, that's already been stated. We already kind of knew about that. And also Devil May Cry kind of already knew about that. Mega Man X9 kind of already knew about some of this stuff. So half this list is stuff that it's okay, yeah. And most of this list, it's not like they're talking about Rival Schools and Darkstalkers and all these other buried and dead franchises that Capcom has are all of a sudden coming back. It's a bunch of stuff that they already do. Devil May Cry, they already do. Mega Man, they already do. Monster Hunter, they already do. Resident Evil, they already do. Onimusha, they already did a new one for that one. More Resident Evil. It's just all stuff that Capcom already does, and they're kind of expanding upon that. Devil May Cry expansion, yeah, we know they make Devil May Cry games, right? So it makes sense for all this stuff. However, there's just some things that I have a lot of apprehension about, especially the timing for a lot of this stuff too. It just seems to me a lot of leaked information there, and I just don't think all of it is okay, 100%, especially the source material where it's coming from. But I've heard of some of these rumors here, and I do think that a lot of this stuff could happen. Or stuff like that could maybe happen. It could be okay, well, maybe it's not exactly when it says, but it's around the time Mega Man X9. Yeah, I think they're gonna do a Mega Man X. It's Mega Man 11 did really well, it reviewed well, it sold well enough from what I understand. Why not do a Mega Man X9? People want that. So I think they're gonna do it, and they have the engine to do it now. Whatever they just used for Mega Man 11, just use the same thing for Mega Man X9. So it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me for them to just continue on with that. It makes sense for them to release Devil May Cry. That doesn't seem like anything big, right? Oh, well, Devil May Cry 1 already came out. There's another Devil May Cry for Switch owners. Devil May Cry 5 expansion makes sense. All this stuff doesn't seem too crazy or anything like that. But once again, take it with a grain of salt. Know that Capcom is crazy, and we never know what they're going to do. We never know when they're going to bring back an old franchise or anything like that. But I will say, out of this whole list, I'm most excited about Viewtiful Joe 1 and 2, and there potentially being a 3. Heck, even if there wasn't a 3, but if Viewtiful Joe 1 and 2 came back in some way, shape, or form with modern consoles and remastered to look a lot better and silky smooth, that would be great. For those who don't know, Viewtiful Joe is like this nice smorgasbord of awesome gameplay elements from like Final Fight or Streets of Rage adventure games with like certain types of like power-ups and being able to upgrade your abilities, and also like bullet time, which was really popular in the early 2000s because it had that as well. Slow-mo, it was really cool. I love Viewtiful Joe. I love the aspects of it, and I really want them to bring back Viewtiful Joe in some way when it comes to systems. It would be great on the Nintendo Switch to be able to play that type of game anywhere that you want. PS4, Xbox One, I'd be completely down for that, but let's hope they do. I mean, Onimusha came back in a remaster, so we'll see about that. Okami got remastered like a million different times, right? So nothing's to say that they can't bring back Viewtiful Joe. It's just been kind of like dead for a long time, but we'll have to wait and see. So what do you guys think about all these different rumors here? What do you think is actually true? What do you think is false? Do you think all of this is false? Do you think some of it is true? What do you think is actually going to happen? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for this RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.